Hello and welcome to the show. It's available on Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So remember to subscribe once you're done listening to the episode and give me a 5-star review because nobody has given me a 4-star review yet. So let's keep the chain unbroken. Today on the show, we're going to be tackling some LinkedIn chatter, and there's been some buzz on LinkedIn, well, at least on my own timeline anyway. Lots of stuff about persuasive speaking, and people talking about how persuasive speaking is a superpower in entrepreneurship. So today, I'm going to be tackling the question: is in fact persuasive speaking a superpower in entrepreneurship? And if you notice that I am putting an emphasis on speaking, then that's good. You're highly perceptive, and you're going to see a reason why I am putting a strain on that. Sorry, excuse me. Now, so before we begin to tackle the question, we have to look at definitions, as is the usual tradition over here on the podcast. Now, what is persuasive speaking? If you ask lots of people, different definitions, but there is one thing that you're going to find in common, despite all the different definitions that are being used. Most folks, when they say persuasive speaking, the intent is to influence someone or to persuade someone or to get someone to do something. You're trying to influence someone towards a specific outcome. That is what most people mean when they say persuasive speaking. So now, is persuasive speaking in fact possible? For the average person, the answer is no. The average person cannot influence or predetermine a chain of events that is going to lead someone towards a specific outcome, especially we're talking verbal. The average person cannot do that. Now, this is just a simple fact. On the other hand, there are people who engage in the art of mentalism. Mentalism is a sub-discipline of what most of us would call magic. So, people who are mentalism professionals, or people who are well versed in psychoerotic linguistic techniques and things like that. Now, those folks are specialists. So, for them, yes, it is possible that they can get into a conversation with me or you and actually influence us towards a specific outcome. The average person, persuasive speaking, is that possible? The answer is no. For the specialists, mentalism types, people who are well versed in psychoerotic techniques, the answer is yes. And of course, I'm sure you must have figured out that mentalism, psychoerotic techniques, all these other stuff, I'm sure you guys have already noticed that these are considered unethical forms of communication and unethical forms of behavior, and for obvious reasons. Because if somebody doesn't want to do A and you're trying to convince them to do A against their own will, against their own interests, then that obviously is a bad thing. So, the best that we can do, other folks like you and me, normal folks like you and me, the best that we can do is to engage in persuasive listening, not persuasive speaking or persuasive talking. Persuasive speaking, on the other hand, is going to be listening to people with intent to try and figure out what their motives are, to try and figure out their vision, to try and figure out their goals, to try and figure out, figure out their problems. And then we're going to be able to align their motives with ours. So when it comes to sales and business and negotiations and things like that, if somebody doesn't want to buy my pajamas or buy my TV or buy my sales training or buy my insurance products, I cannot convince them against their own will. There are some people I'm going to be able to bully and they will buy. But of course, with the previous episode, we know why that's not a good idea, because you push people into those kinds of situations, they end up with buyer's remorse or buyer's regret. Either way, they're not going to come to buy from us again, and they're not going to refer friends, family members, and associates, and we would have effectively closed off that income stream, making our job much more difficult. That means we have to go and look for a new person to sell to tomorrow. So it's not a good idea to bulldoze someone or to persuade someone into buying something that they are not interested in. But when you listen and figure out what their motives, their visions, their goals, the problems, all the things that they're facing are, if there is any alignment, then you know that there is room for you. So, if I sell state-of-the-art televisions, but I'm talking to someone who does not like TV, there is no amount of magic talking that me, ordinary human being, Tavishima, can do that will get them to buy the TV. But if I'm a specialist in psychoerotic techniques or in mentalism, then yes, I'll be able to do that. And of course, we agree, everyone agrees that that is unethical, which is why those mentalism types and people who are familiar with those techniques, that is why they're limited to stage shows. You go on the stage show, you do your thing, everybody claps for you, and you're like, wow, isn't that wonderful? But they do not actually do that for a living because it's unethical. And if the police find out, you're going to go to jail because it's unethical. And of course, if you're engaged in such unethical behavior, it's only a matter of time that you're going to eventually skip the fine line and end up doing crimes. So the best that we can do is to listen attentively. When we listen and we figure out who we're talking to and where it is that they're going, we're going to be able to figure out, does my product, does my service, does whatever it is that I'm selling, is there any alignment there? If there's alignment, I'm now going to be able to make the argument that, okay, Mr. So-and-so, Madam So-and-so, I've listened to what you said. It looks like this is what you're trying to achieve. This is what you're trying to avoid. And if you buy my product, the XYZ 3000, you're going to be able to do this and save costs. And you're going to be able to do this. And your wife is going to be much happy. And the people in your department are going to give you a raise at the end of the day because of superior performance. So what do you think? Are you ready to buy? And then in that case, Mr. So-and-so or Madam So-and-so will be willing to buy because there is alignment. And not only that, when he or she buys and they achieve the goal, they're going to come back to buy some more, and they're going to send their friends, their family members, and their associates to come buy from me again and again and again. So that's the goal. It's not persuasive speaking that is the goal, but persuasive listening, because that is what gives you the data, that's what gives you the information, that is what gives you all the stuff you need to make a persuasive case or a strong and effective presentation. Now, some of you are probably still not convinced, and you say that yes, there's such a thing as persuasive speaking, because you're probably thinking Adolf Hitler and you're probably thinking Nigerian politicians. That's for those of you who are Nigerians listening to the podcast, especially since we've come out of an electoral cycle and we saw that whole thing of Tinubu and Yoruba people versus Igbo people, and then Atiku and the whole playing up northern ethnic sentiments and blah, 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 blah. So those things, they probably seem like cases of persuasive speaking, doesn't it? Because you have politicians mount a podium or sit in front of a camera and effectively persuade people to do things that they ordinarily would not do. But that is not the case. Politicians do not persuade you to vote one way or to do this thing or to do that thing. They don't persuade you. Politicians are real skillful at aligning with tribal tendencies and aligning with fears and aligning with all sorts of motives that already existed in the first place. So Tinubu didn't have to come and teach Yoruba people how to hate Igbo people. All his people involved in his political stagecraft, all that they just did was just take advantage of those tendencies that were already there, align with it, and play it up for their own benefit. And it's the same thing with Atiku. For those of you who say Atiku was playing up northern sentiments, Atiku did not persuade northern boys to do anything. All he and his people did was realize that, look, there is this sentiment that already exists. There is this fear that already exists. There is this prejudice that already exists. Let us align, and then we pour some more kerosene there, and then we're going to stoke the fire. And that is what people do in politics. So, Hitler, Tinubu, whichever presidential candidate, whether it's Nigeria, United Kingdom, America, the politician, unfortunately, did not persuade you to do anything. They didn't make you do anything. Donald Trump did not make anyone do anything. They are just real good at aligning with things that are already there. What they're doing is they are practicing how to listen persuasively, and then they know the things that they need to hit to achieve their goals. So it's the same thing with business. Apple, I think the latest one is the iPhone 16. One of my young cousins just got one of them. And, well, anyway, I hadn't had a look at it, but people swear that it's a real cool gadget. So, Apple, iPhone 16, it's out. Yes, there's some advertising going on. But the thing is, the advertisements that Apple is putting out did not persuade you to buy the phone. The advertising campaigns, the positioning, the whatever it is that they did, the branding was just aligning it with the need that people have to be trendy, the need that people have to be sophisticated, to be cosmopolitan, to be on the leading edge of style. They're just keying into something that they have listened to the market and they figured out that those things exist, and they are just aligning. So Apple is not making anybody go and line outside stores for 6 hours before the store opens so that they can be the first person in their clique to say, I got the Apple iPhone 16. Apple is not persuading them to do anything. They, based on their own volition, especially since it looks like the motives are aligned, and since they want to be trendy and they want to be sophisticated and they want to be able to brag amongst their friends, they choose to go and spend 6 hours outside the store before the phone opens, or to do whatever it is, sell whatever it is, engage in whatever behavior they need to engage in so that they can afford enough to get the iPhone 16, even though they can't pay for 3 square meals. We hear that there are people who can't feed themselves properly but will do anything to get the latest iPhone. So Apple is not persuasively speaking anyone into doing anything. They're listening for the undercurrents, and then they are just aligning incentives. So the ultimate superpower is not speaking per se. The ultimate superpower actually is in listening. It is through listening conversation techniques that the average Joe, like you or me, average Joe or Jane, is going to be able to figure out when you're talking to a particular person or to a particular customer cohort, customer segment, whatever it is you want to call it. It is from listening that we're going to be able to figure out the nuggets. We're going to be able to figure out the data. We're going to be able to figure out the information, the needs, the problems, the things that we need to lean into and emphasize when we do start speaking. And that is how we're going to be able to achieve our goals. So it's not the speaking that bringeth forth the progress, but actually it's the listening. So if you're trying to be persuasive in business communications, then reach out to me on 080-6466-2140. You can WhatsApp, Telegram, SMS, however it is you choose to get in touch, and we'll come up with a plan for creating engaging conversations for you and your potential customers and clients so that we can get all the nuggets that we need to achieve our business goals. You can also reach out to me on socials. I spend most of my time on LinkedIn these days. My name is Tavishima Ayede. The correct spelling of my name, you can find it on the website where you're currently listening to this episode, or on the profile of the podcast app where you're currently listening to my voice. So thanks for your time and attention. This is 13 minutes. Okay, so I'm glad. Kept it under 15 minutes today. Let's see how many 15-minute episodes we can knock off, and stay away from the 30-minute episodes to be much more mindful of your time. So thanks for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next episode.